Can minerals solve all the world's problems?
Well, I know that without them, we can't solve any of them. Is
It's a
thing
that's a
like,
good answer.
yeah, I've never thought about that, but that's yeah, that is my like hardcore stance on it. I would say I've seen nutrition become personality so many times.
What do you think of iron and ferritin and any kind of what's your big picture take on iron in the body? Because there's a sort of conventional view on that and iron deficiency anemia, and we need proper levels of iron. There's
Mhm.
also some research that has shown high levels of iron is certainly linked with various kinds of diseases and early mortality. And also, there's research that ties into this that is on blood donation as being a
Mhm.
strategy that helps decrease the risk of various diseases and promote longevity, which is actually a little known thing. And then you
Mhm.
have someone like
Yep.
Morley Robbins, who has a very controversial, very contrarian take on iron, who basically argues, I don't want to misrepresent here, and hopefully I'm not doing that. But essentially, the lower the better, and it's impossible to be deficient in iron, and that iron's kind of not really a good guy as it is seen in the conventional view that performs these vital functions, but is sort of mostly a villain. Again, not trying to misrepresent, but in general,
Sure.
he's of the opinion that lower is better, and
Right.
that it's impossible to be deficient. Where do you land on that spectrum, and what's your take on the role of iron in the human body?
So we need all the elements, and we have a propensity toward iron because it's the only element that carries oxygen, right? So the problem, though, is that it's not so much that we would even be having this conversation if it was 1900, but it's 120 years later, roughly. And again, the soil shifted. And we again, we probably, we didn't have like specialists for every organ back then. And people were just a lot more vital. And all you have to do for quote unquote research is just like image search the 50s, the 60s, like see modern America now, modern. It looks like we're regressing and offer a lot of toxicity uh, in the process of them turning the lights off, so to speak. But something that I say is that symptoms are our allies, and so we'll just update it for anyone if this is you just stumbled across this podcast and you haven't heard stuff that Ari's put out before, which is probably unlikely. But if this is you. Look, drugs will not get you well. Repeat after me. They're not going to get you well. They're not going to reverse a deficiency. I'm sorry if that's like a whoa, wait moment, but that's real, and that's not open for conjecture or opinion. Like, believe me, I wish I like more people were getting help because plenty of people are doing this, but just because it's popular doesn't mean it's smart. Most people are really awesome at following the herd and not thinking for themselves. That's really a larger conversation I think we're having here for people. So yeah, great question. With with iron, we need it. We get too much of it though, it seems like, because it's the most ubiquitous element that we're consuming, really, or one of the top. And there's a balance. Like one of the ratios that we look at in hair tissue analysis is iron to copper. And we see that dysregulated all the time. Now, I know Morley talked about COVID destabilizing iron in the body different ways and different pathways, um, and the copper being rendered unavailable even if it was present. I mean, there's a lot that if that is true that disrupts. So what I can say for sure is that we can go back to just like the physics and chemistry of the cell and the body, and um, what we know is that to make energy, to make ATP, you for sure need oxygen. I think we're all pretty straight on that one. You for sure need magnesium. Less people know that. And then far less people know that you do need copper for sure. And then we need to be aware of the things that get in the way of those things. And that's like a really good start right there. If we all did that and we all did and didn't do the things you mentioned earlier in terms of don't smoke, don't drink, hey, nothing new there. Get sunlight, not too much, but not too little either. That's a whole podcast in of itself, but we'll try to keep it on, you know. And then beware that when you're trying to fix deficiencies like this with food, that you're going to have things that are, quote, high in magnesium, for example. Let's say you have an imbalance between calcium and magnesium, and you're like most people. It's almost impossible not to have that be dysregulated today. Like, congratulations if you're one of the few. But if you didn't do a hair test and you didn't have a good consultation with someone that really truly specializes in that, I would question whether or not that's true. And then I would do follow-up testing every 3 months to see that that continues to be true or not true. But let's say you are one of the 90+% of people that we see that has too much calcium, not enough magnesium as a ratio overall. Again, the ratios are way more important when you're looking at hair testing than individual numbers as well. People should be super clear on that as well. So if that's the case, then you're going to need to get less calcium in the system. You're going to need to get some of that out. You're going to need more magnesium. And you're going to need to utilize that well. So absorbing is part of it. The way we do that is with particle size being really small and really stable as well. And then just other awarenesses like B6. A lot of people have methylation issues, and B6 is really important in spinning that wheel that we refer to as the methylation pathway as a whole. And it's something that it seems like everyone's also deficient in is B6. So those are a few thoughts.
So tell me about some of your mineral formulas and what's in them and what's unique about them. And I know you have some aspects of technology that relate to bioavailability of the minerals, helping to get these minerals into the body. Describe that landscape to me. Why is it an issue to get them? I mean, why not just take plain minerals? And what's wrong with that? Why do we need special technology to help us absorb those minerals? And describe what that technology is.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So let's go way back for a moment to when I started thinking about how to solve this problem. And my realization there was that when the body, so this speaks to the question that someone's going to ask when they go like, well, what form of iodine or what form of chromium or what form of zinc or what form of magnesium do you use, or do you use multiple forms or what? I've heard this and that about those forms. So here's the thing that I would invite everyone to think about. When you get your minerals from food, let's say that you eat something that has magnesium in it, for example, and you're ingesting that, and let's say there's 80 steps to break that down, to go from food to being absorbed into the bloodstream. At any point, is it that the body needs or requests or asks for, in the case of magnesium, like threonate or glycinate? And I'm not saying that those things don't work. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that how the body does it? That it requests these separate things. And I realized that the body, it doesn't go, oh, I don't have any like magnesium threonate, or I can't make a combination of that and send it to the brains, therefore the brain's not going to work today. It's like, wow, I think we'd all have a shorter lifespan and we'd have a lot more evolution to go if that was the case, right? But luckily, and I'm super grateful for us being many evolutions beyond that, where we are today, still plenty of things to solve and figure out, socially, economically, psychologically, plenty of other problems.
Can minerals solve all the world's problems?
Well, I know that without them, we can't solve any of them. Is
That's a,
thing
that's a
like,
good answer.
yeah, I've never thought about that, but that's yeah, that is my like hardcore stance on it, I would say. Because I've seen nutrition become our personality. I've seen nutrition become personality so many times.
What do you mean by that? You mentioned
Um,
that earlier. I meant to
yeah,
ask you what you mean, because so I'm glad you brought it up again.
yeah, absolutely. So I gave a talk at Mind Valley this summer, and Vision had asked me to come and speak on this idea because he hadn't really heard it talked about this way, and he's like, "Wow, that's fascinating." And it's after looking at so many hair analyses and seeing really clearly and talking to people, like, "What are you experiencing?" And they're like, "Well, I was labeled bipolar," and like seeing their sodium to potassium ratio, and then going back in the research and seeing that ARL figured this out a long time ago, or seeing like this other lab figured this out a long time ago, and they're like, "Ding, this exact point," and then talking to the people and confirming that, and then getting to the point of like not even seeing someone, not that you ever want to diagnose or support someone without asking questions. You always want to like, "Hey, what are you experiencing? Is this true for you?" Things like that, and really like ask a lot of questions and see, and then merge that with the results you're looking at. That's another failing of our conventional medication system, as I call it, is that in the money driven, 5 minute per patient world, they're just looking at a chart, and whether it's you or your brother there, or you and a 400-pound plus version of you that's sitting there, like they're still saying the same thing based on your results, which is scary to think about, but that's true. For That's the real reality for most people. So that alone, like now we're just looking and exposing flaws in that system and going like, I don't know. Do you think that's a good way to proceed? I don't know. Make your own decision.